All right, good evening, Brenna.
Hi.
All right, so today we're going to do some processing. So what I want to begin with is just mechanics. You will be using the paddles today. So if you want to pick one up, one in each hand, you don't have to hold them tight or anything, just loosely in your hands.
Them.
No,
okay.
You don't have to. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start. And you don't even have to look at the thing, you're using the paddles.
Okay.
So, let me know if...
Okay, I can feel that.
Alright, is that too fast?
I'm not sure what too fast would be. I mean, I can still distinguish one from the other.
Comfortable. You want it on the very edge of tolerable.
We're there then.
Okay. Alright. Alright, now if we need to stop, how do you want to do that? Do you want to give me a timeout sign? Do you want to hold up a hand?
Would just putting the paddles down be enough, or?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
That'll be fine. Okay.
I promise not to throw them or anything. I'll just put them down or something like that. Hold my hand up.
Yeah, they're fragile. Please don't throw them. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get started. Okay. So please tell me some way you feel limited in your present life, or something, or an issue you would like to focus on.
Being self-conscious, just.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's just another level of anxiety, but.
How does this get in the way?
It kind of keeps me from doing new things or necessarily enjoying things that I am doing that I want to try, just because I worry about what other people are thinking or how it's looking or embarrassing myself.
Okay. So now when you're being self-conscious, what's difficult for you to do, especially with the people closest to you?
Sometimes just like speak my mind, or sometimes the way I ask a question about something that I think might be a problem, but I don't know if it's a problem, or maybe I think it's a problem, but just I'm almost more afraid of the answer than I am the question, but it's the question that starts the whole chain reaction, so.
Okay. How is that difficult?
You mean as far as like how I feel, or just?
Yeah, what makes it difficult?
Just the whole build up to the question and the fear of the response and the possible reaction the person will have.
Okay.
Like, I'm afraid of disappointing them before I've even opened my mouth, so.
Okay. So now, we're going to look at times in your life when you tried to do, this difficult thing, and it didn't work out well. Okay? So now, tell me a recent time that would be an example of when you tried to do, what's difficult for you to do.
Well, so taking dance lessons and really enjoy them, but sometimes the idea of, dancing in front of other people, when it's not in a structured, it's not the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just when out dancing in front of other people. Stepping on toes, knocking people over.
How is that difficult?
I just don't want to be embarrassed or have people think less of me or embarrass the person I'm with.
Okay. Now, can you Can you give me an example of how, this shows up in your life socially?
I think sometimes with making new friends or because I'm afraid to reach out because, again, I've built my, I get afraid of the answer before I've asked the question. Sometimes setting that whole, you can't say yes if you can't say no, but like I'm afraid to like say no sometimes, so.
Give me a specific example of this.
I have a friend that she calls periodically to go do stuff, which is fine, but she seems to want to do it later in the evening, like when the time I'd be getting in, from going to do something. She just that's when she's wanting to go out, and it's just, I don't want to do that all the time, but like I'm afraid sometimes to say no, but I feel bad saying yes, and then.
Give me something specific about that. What made it difficult?
Just the fear of disappointing.
Okay, give me a
somebody.
Specific moment in time that happened, and that was difficult.
Well, the last time she asked about coming over, for example, to the pool. I'm just not a pool person. I wouldn't mind going occasionally, but I typically need a little more time ahead, like ahead time. Like I'm not quite anywhere near spontaneous as I used to be, as far as, well, everybody's spontaneous in their 20s, but I usually need a little more build up, a little more time.
So what happened?
Well, I had, said I wasn't really, I was honest and said I wasn't really big on going to the pool, and then I said, but, I kind of implied that I, would be open to it, and then I brought up something that I like to do, and just, threw out there, is that something you're interested in, kind of thing, but.
Okay. How was that difficult?
Just even bringing up the suggestion was kind of like, I felt bad saying no, but I didn't want to say yes to something that I just didn't want to do at the time, and end up not enjoying it while I was there, and then just throwing something out, I thought, well, I don't want her to think that I'm trying to put her off, or, I just was more worried about what she would say or react to than.
What would that say about you if she did feel put off, as you put it?
I'd be afraid that she was thinking that I just didn't want to hang out with her, or, was making an excuse, or.
Okay. And what if you were? What does that say about you?
That I'm antisocial, that, I'm not being nice, that I just seem kind of weird.
Okay. And what would that say about you if you were antisocial?
That I just don't want to go out that often.
Okay. Okay, and once again, what would that say about you if it were true?
That I'm a homebody, that I prefer to stay home a lot of times rather than go out.
Okay. If you prefer to stay home, tell me what that would say about you. If you didn't want to be around other people.
I like my time to myself. Not all the time, but some of the times. A lot of the time, most of the time.
Okay. And how does that get in the way? How does that difficult? How does that make your life difficult?
Just, I don't know, I feel bad saying yes, so when I do say yes to stuff I don't want to do, then sometimes I end up feeling more anxious and happy when I'm out doing it, even if I like the person, and I'm kind of counting the clock until it's, as silly as it sounds, so like it feels like an acceptable amount of time to go home, because it's like I've been out as much as I can tolerate and then I need to leave. And then if I say no, I feel bad, because then I'm afraid they're just not going to like me anymore, or think that I don't like them, or don't want to, be friends. And that's not the case at all. It's just,
Okay. Now tell me about a time when that has shown up in your intimate relationships.
anytime I have to ask a question about something that might be wrong or might be a problem, or by intimate, do you mean like husband, friend?
Could be husband,
parent.
family, yes, and something specific,
Okay.
a specific moment in time.
There have been, I don't know if you call it an incident, but there have been times when I feel like my parent will bring very negative, very, woe is me, and I feel like if I bring up a counterpoint to that, they think I'm being like argumentative, or if it's involving my sibling, I feel like they think I'm gonna like be trying to get attention. So I'm not one of those people that can just like come up with stuff at the split second and say it and have it come out and sound appropriate.
Okay. Give me something specific.
I mean, like something I actually said that made me uncomfortable, or something I didn't say because I was afraid.
Something that was difficult. That, well, like we were talking about before, when you were thinking you didn't want people to think badly
Right.
about you. Something specific, a specific moment in time when that happened.
And I don't know if as much as part of it was not wanting someone to think bad of me, but I don't like confrontation either, and I was afraid of what that might start up. I just, there's too many to choose from. I brought up a potential problem with a family member, and it was a little difficult because I didn't know quite how to say it without sounding like I was being argumentative or seeking attention kind of thing. And I brought it up, and almost immediately that was the counterpoint. That, the other thing that the other person said was just, immediately turned around to, like it was me perceiving it wrong, but I don't think I was.
Okay. All right. Now, how has that shown up in your work?
I'm not sure how to bring up problems that I never know if they're actually, as weird as that sounds, I don't want to be embarrassed. So I'm afraid to bring up problems because I don't always have solutions. Like I said, I'm not somebody who could just like think, you know what I mean? Like some people seem to be able to pull that stuff out of the air, and they just seem, I'm not. And so sometimes I feel like I don't know if when I say a problem, is it going to just, I'm afraid it'll just be perceived as me being complaining or whining or,
Okay. Something specific.
Okay. Well, it's gotten better, but there was some scheduling issues where it seemed like only one person ever got to take advantage of flexible scheduling. Let's say that. Like if there was something I wanted or needed to in the evening, I never felt like I could do it because I was always expected to just, be that person that stayed late and did whatever the thing was. And then there was this other coworker who just seemed like at the drop of a hat, if they wanted to go do something, they just pushed visits off onto other people. And in the past, I'd bring it up, and I never could quite bring it up the right way. And I felt like with one boss that they were more interested in, they weren't really that concerned. They were happy with the way things are. They didn't want to rock the boat. So it just kind of, I never, like they always, they tended to turn it around. So I never knew if what I was complaining about was an actual complaint, or was it just a thing associated with my job and my setting that.
Okay. Something specific with that.
Well, in the past, I had wanted to they have these little independent study courses, like every quarter or whatever you want to call it. And you don't get any credit for it, and it's more for fun than anything else, but it's in the evenings. And sometimes those classes started around 5:30, maybe 6 at the latest. And it would mean that at the very least I'd have to leave on time. And some days, depending on what part of the county I was from, I'd have to leave a little early. But I always felt like, I know there were coworkers who always seemed to be able to leave early at the drop of a hat. They, for things, personal things they wanted to do. But whenever I would ask, I was told I'd have to do PTO. I'd have to take the time off. And it's just, I never knew how to, I was afraid to argue that point because I didn't want to be perceived again as being whining or argumentative. I also was afraid if I brought it up and it turned out to be something that the person didn't know about, then, they didn't realize other people were doing. I didn't want them to get in trouble. But I also, again, didn't want to, if that person was determined that, they were happy the way things were running, then I didn't want, suddenly to be a target.
So what happened?
When the boss herself was out of the office for a while, the person filling in for her had no problem with me leaving a little early, as long as, everybody got seen for the week and I wasn't constantly doing missed visits around that time frame. But now when the boss got back, she wanted me to take actual PTO. So I chose not to say anything else to her rather than argue about it.
And that's what happened in this situation?
Yeah, which, again, I was afraid of confrontation. I wasn't sure how to bring it up without making it sound like I was whining or tattling. And I didn't like the fact that I was having to use up time that I could use for something else when other people were just, my perception was that other people were just, like I said, leaving early whenever they wanted to do something.
Okay. Now, when you bring up the worst part of this issue with being self-conscious, what is the worst part of it right now?
Just the whole fear and anxiety, I guess, leading up to it, and the fear of disappointing. It's almost like I'm pretty convinced I'm going to disappoint someone, or it's going to lead to a bad conclusion. Like I'll get fired, or the other person will confirm my worst fear, or nothing's going to change, so why say anything to begin with? And then I just end up being miserable sometimes instead of.
Okay. Now, how disturbing is it right now on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no disturbance, 10 is the most fear and anxiety you felt in your life?
Just the thought of confrontation and leading up to that kind of situation, at least a 7, maybe 8.
Okay. Now, when you bring up this disturbance and the difficult part, what's a negative belief about yourself you have right now?
That I guess it won't. Kind of like I don't deserve the same boundaries or treatment as everyone else.
Okay. And what would that say about yourself if it were true?
That I'm not worthy.
Okay. All right. Now, when you think about the worst part of what's going on right now with your being self-conscious and this thought of I'm not worthy. Tell me an earlier time you can remember experiencing something similar.
I'd say if I'm going as far back as I can remember at the moment, probably elementary school. just had trouble in the latter part of it making friends, and for one period of time, and it just, I had the whole bullying experience, and I just never felt like, what was the point of defending myself?
Okay. Give me a specific memory.
There was this one girl that just was determined to like she never had anything good to say to me or about me for about a year. She was always coming up and saying stuff, insults and backhanded comments and snide remarks, and
Okay. And when is a specific time this was happening?
probably around 4th, 5th grade ish.
About 10? You were 10? 10, 11, something like that?
Maybe around 10, yeah.
Okay.
10,
What
11.
happened?
I just, like I said, for about a year or so, like every time I saw her, and it was a small school, so it's not like I could avoid her that much, but just constant little jabs and, no apparent reason, just, comments and insults and stuff like that. And
Well, like what? Give me something specific. What?
Just like came up and insulted a family member one day, and then when I was joking back to try and break the ice, diffuse it with humor, I wouldn't have thought that it's what I was doing at the time, but that's what I was doing. She just immediately countered back with, don't say anything about my family, or she'd make fun of something I was doing, like a drawing, or we'd have to, of course, elementary school, we'd have to write, she'd make fun of something I was writing. Just, again, no apparent reason.
But something, a specific memory, not, we're going like in a story. I don't need a group of memories, I need a specific memory.
Making fun of a coat I had. Of course, I didn't like the coat either, so I didn't. That couldn't
How old were you then?
Probably about the same age.
All right. Making fun of a coat? What happened?
Just, she made some insults about it and snide remarks, and, how bad it looked, and I just, just kind of commented back with, just simple, well, that's your opinion kind of thing, but I never really defended it or told her to shut up or,
Okay.
got angry.
Okay. And what's an earlier time?
Off the top of my head, I don't really remember an earlier time.
So let's put ourselves back into that difficult time, feeling self-conscious. What's an earlier time?
Really, I want to say that's around the time a lot of it started. I know that sounds silly, but that's around, at least socially, that seems to be when a lot of it started, was the...
Okay. It could be, let's expand, just give it a moment. Think about this feeling of not being worthy. And what's an earlier time?
And maybe the closest thing I could come up with, it's not really the same strength of feeling, but I guess it's along the same lines. I know and it may sound silly, but I know in kindergarten they had this little thing where we voted, and later I realized it was a fundraiser, but what they did was they named somebody like queen or candidate or something like that, and then you were supposed to go and fundraise then, and if you raised the most money, you got the crown. Of course, at the time I didn't really know that, but it was between me and this other little girl. We had about equal lineup between us, and I think I had maybe one or two more. The only thing is I was supposed to go ask my parents if I could do it. Now, granted, I was like 5, so you know why they were relying on a 5-year-old to remember to go tell them. But I think part of it I didn't remember, but I think part of it is I was intentionally not remembering because I just didn't think, you know, the idea of all those kids choosing me just somehow made me uncomfortable. Like I didn't feel like I was worthy of, you know, that selection process, I guess
Okay.
you could call it.
Okay. And what's an earlier time?
I don't have an earlier time.
Let's give it a moment. Think about that time of feeling not worthy.
No, I think that's about as far back as anything's popping up right now.
Okay. Alright, so we're going to go with the kindergarten. What was it, like a homecoming?
Kinda, I think, I can't remember what the exact title was. It maybe was a homecoming kind of thing, and each little kindergarten class, and I guess each little room, you know, grade school room, had their own little nominee, however that was, and
Mm-hmm.
they had kids line up, the people who were interested and, or selected or whatever, and then, you know, they would line up behind us.
Okay. When you bring up that memory, what image represents the worst part?
I guess maybe, you know, because she asked me a couple days in a row if I had asked my parents, and I don't know, just couldn't say. I'd say no, I forgot, but that wasn't quite, I mean, part of it I'm sure I forgot to some extent, but again, I just kind of, just the idea, I guess, maybe of, you know, I don't know,
Okay. What
being the center of attention on that just didn't.
what image, what picture comes up in your mind when you think of that?
Even as far as like me sitting at a desk and my head's kind of hanging down because I don't want to make eye contact with the teacher when she's asking me.
Okay. Now, what words go best with that picture that expresses your negative belief about yourself now?
I mean, I was avoiding the situation. I was feeling uncomfortable.
Okay. What negative belief about yourself? If that's true, if you were
I mean, I
avoiding,
guess it
what does
goes-
it say about you?
Goes back to that, you know, word unworthy. I just didn't feel like I deserved that kind of, you know, even though I was just 5 and I didn't know, like I said, I didn't understand it until later, but,
Mhm.
you know,
When you bring up that picture, what would you prefer to believe about yourself?
I would prefer to believe that maybe I was worthy. I just would have rather had the belief that I chose not to because I didn't want to, as opposed to not feeling like I deserve to be in the spotlight.
Which one feels better? I'm worthy or I deserve the spotlight?
I would say worthy. I mean, deserve the spotlight, you know, feels lighter, but
Well, which one feels the best to you?
maybe deserve.
Okay.
But that implies I've earned it somehow, so.
Okay. And now when you think of that picture, how true do the words, I deserve the spotlight, feel to you now on a scale of 1 to 7, where 1 is completely false, 7 is completely true?
Well, I'd like it to be like at least a 7. I don't think that's usually the case, though. I think it's more like I mean, like I'd like to feel like totally like yes, but I think it's more at the other end of the spectrum. Like
But how true does it feel?
2.
Not, okay, I was going to say not what you would like for it to feel, but we'll get to there later. When you bring up that picture and those words, I'm unworthy, what emotion do you feel right now?
anxious. I don't know if fatigue is a feeling, but anxious, tired, frustrated.
Okay. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no disturbance or neutral, and 10 is the highest level of frustration or anxiety you could possibly imagine, how disturbing does that memory feel to you right now?
8.
Where do you feel that in your body?
Kind of in through, mainly here.
Your chest?
Yeah.
Because you're kind of going up and down.
Yeah, this may be more sinus, but I think this may be more sinus, but yeah, I'm feeling more here.
Okay. Right. Now what I want you to do is I want you to bring up that picture and those negative words, I'm unworthy. Notice that you're feeling that in your chest and hold on to the paddles. And what do you notice now?
That's less,
Okay.
I think.
Notice that. And what do you notice now?
A little less. Like, and what is left seems a little bit more spread out instead of just right here in the center.
Okay. Go with that. And what do you notice now?
Still less, but still diffuse, maybe even a little more like spread out this way now.
Okay. Go with that.